First and second person personal pronouns. Chapter 11. Pronouns stand in the place of nouns, and because they stand in the place of them, they must be able to be in any case or number. In Greek, the pronoun is actually contained within the verb, and we'll get to this later when we do verbs. And only the third person pronoun can have gender. So, the components of the personal pronoun are person, number, case, and gender. And remember, only the third person pronouns have gender. Person can be first, second, or third. I, you, he, she, it. Singular or plural. I, we, you, y'all. Case, and all the cases that a noun can be, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. And if a third person pronoun, it can have masculine, feminine, and neuter gender. Components of first and second person pronouns. The first person being I, and the second person being you. So let's look at the components. Again, we have person, number, case, gender, and the person is either first or second. It's either I, we, or second person, you or y'all. The number, singular or plural. And the cases, remember, this is a pronoun standing in the way of a noun, so it must have all the cases, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative, and no gender. Remember, only third person personal pronouns can have gender. Like articles, there are no variant endings. There's one set of endings for the first person, one set of endings for the second. The first person personal pronoun. We have number, case, and for number we have plural and singular. In the case, same case that we had for the nouns, is nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. The nominative form is ego. Ego. You can pretty much remember this because you can think of ego, I. I am first. I am first. Now, in Greek, there is something called an emphatic form. That is, there is a pronoun, and then there is a pronoun, and that pronoun is the emphatic form. In the singular nominative first person, there is no emphatic form, and that's because the very use of the first person pronoun has an emphatic quality already. As I said, the pronoun is contained within the verb. And in English, this is I. Ego is I. The genitive, and we look at the genitive, and we have mu, like a cow, omicron, upsilon, second declension, genitive endings, and there is an emphatic form. The first person emphatic forms have an epsilon before the personal pronoun. So instead of mu, we get emu. And this is my. Dative. Now the dative has the iota at the end of it. As we know, the dative, in the singular especially, that iota is always present. But if it's a long vowel, it is subscripted. In the case of the personal pronoun, it is not subscripted, and it actually has a sound. It is moi. And of course, the emphatic is emoi, and this is to me, indirect object. And it also has the same functions with prepositions that nouns and adjectives had. Accusative, me, And this was an easy one to remember because the accusative in English is me, and the accusative in Greek is me. And of course, we have emme as the emphatic, meaning me. Me means me. Now the nominative plural is interesting. It takes a different root and is actually in a different declension. So we have hemes, rough breathing, eta, hemes, and the plural forms have no emphatic forms. They only exist in the singular, in the genitive, dative, and the accusative. The nominative, we. The genitive, and we should know this one, the genitive plural will always be omega nu. So hemon is our. Iota there, hemin, movable nu, is to us. And the accusative is hemos, us. Now the second person is going to follow everything that you've seen so far. There's not very much memorization required here. Once again, we have singular, case, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. And the plural, again, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative, just like the noun. Just like the first person, the su, which is the nominative form, you just have to memorize this, has no emphatic. If you use su, it is emphatic. And it means you. The genitive, same endings as we had with the first person, is su. Sounds just like the nominative su. The genitive is also su, but it's that omicron upsilon that tells you it's a genitive. Now, the emphatic form doesn't have an epsilon. The emphatic form in the second person is merely an accent. So, personal pronoun, first and second, are not accented, but they are accented in the emphatic. So, su and su, again, it's going to sound pretty much the same way, but it's an emphasis now, and it means your. Dative, once again, the iota, we get soy, and soy with the accent is the emphatic. To you, soy, the dative. Accusative, se, se. Se with the accent, and you. Now the nominative is, instead of hemes, is humes. So we'll have humes. There are no emphatic forms in the plural. Is you. Sometimes I say we use the word y'all just to make sure we know it's the plural. Genitive, we expect that omega nu, humon is your. Dative, humin, to you. And the accusative, humas, you. Now, let's look at the difference between the first and second personal pronoun. There's not very much. So, we have to memorize the nominative. There's no way around that. So we just remember ego, su. And there's a way of remembering this. I am always first in line, but su stands behind me. So I am the first in line, and su is the second in line. The genitive form, all endings are the same between the first and the second. So, genitive, omicron upsilon, dative, omicron iota, accusative epsilon, and then if you look over under su, same thing, omicron upsilon, omicron iota, and epsilon. And the same is true, ace, on, in, os, in the plural, and those are the same endings we have with the second person. The first person begins with an mu, and you can remember this by thinking of my, me, 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 me. Me is the first person. The only difference between the first and the second person, personal pronouns all the way through, is that sigma And that's a sign of the second person, but we also know that's Sue, who's standing behind us. The nominative begins with an eta all the way through it. And it's an eta with rough breathing. Hey, Mace. The only difference in the second person is it begins with an upsilon. And you can remember this because the upsilon is you. So, if it begins with a U, it means you. If it doesn't, it means we. How is the emphatic used? Well, first of all, as I told you, the emphatic is redundant. That is, the pronoun is already contained in the verb, so grammatically, there's absolutely no use for personal pronouns. So they are redundant. And it's this redundancy that makes them emphatic. So we have Amy, as you learned this earlier, this is the verb to be. Amy means, in this little ending, me is I. So Amy means I am. And if we put the personal pronoun with it, ego Amy, it still means I am, but there's an emphasis on the I. Ego Amy. Contrast strengthens the emphatic. So if we have a sentence that is in contrast, that is mainly a but, then the two sides often need the emphatic. So, ego ebaptisa humas sude baptise hemas. And this is kind of a modified form here. I baptized you. I, ego's out there. As I said, that verb by itself still means I baptized, but ego means I baptized you, but, and we have the Sue, but you will baptize them. And you'll see that contrast, the use of but, gives a good reason for the emphatic. Now, parsing of the first and second personal pronouns. It's going to be slightly different than we've had with nouns, so I'm going to go through it with you. The person with the first and second we're going to have is either first or second person. Remember, first person is I, second person stands behind me is you. The case, nominative, genitive, dative, or accusative. The number, singular or plural. The gender, there is no gender in the first or second personal pronoun. And the lexical form, that is your lexical vocabulary word. And the meaning is the meaning of that word. So, Sue. Sue, look at the ending there. Right, nothing added to it. This is the nominative root. So, the person we have is second. Sue stands behind me. The case is nominative. Number is singular. The gender, no gender in first and second. Lexical form is Sue. It's in the nominative. And it means you. Moi, that Yoda at the end there tells us something. And that mu at the beginning tells us another thing. So the mu tells us first person. The Yoda tells us the case is dative, singular. No gender. The lexical form is ego, to me. Hemon, okay, omega nu, okay, genitive plural, and that eta, he, if it's not an upsilon, which means you, it means we. So we have first person, genitive, plural, no gender, chemes, our. Humas, second person. This is accusative, plural, no gender. It comes from humes, and that upsilon at the beginning tells us you. And it means you, the accusative. Okay, let's look at some very basic sentences in the personal pronoun. Ego eimi hachuias su. Okay, the first thing that we want to do is find out what is the subject here. And the personal pronoun as the subject is the one that's in the nominative, and that is ego. So I am, and remember that eimi is an equal sign, so that if it's nominative on one side, it's going to be nominative on the other side too. So ego eimi hachuias su. I am the son, and su is a second person. That sigma at the beginning is su, tells us it's second person, and that ending is omicron upsilon, which is the genitive ending. So we would translate this as I am the son of you, or a little more elegantly, I am your son. In the same way, sue hachuias mu, you, su, are mu instead of su. You are my son. Humes este hoi huioi hemon. Humes este hoi huioi hemon. So we begin humes, and we see that upsilon there. It's in the nominative, but the upsilon says you. Okay, so you are what? The sons, children, plural here, hemon, of us, or you are our children. Opposite one is hemes esmen hoi huioi humon. Hemes, if it doesn't have an upsilon there, it means we. So, we are your sons. And one of the meanings of the plural huios is children. One of the things that happens in Greek is that all forms become masculine if they are plural and there's any mixture at all. So if there are 250 men and one woman, it's masculine. If there are 249 women and there's no one man, it's still masculine. He meteramu edoken moi tain oikian su. So we just want to get the main sentence is, right, mother gave the house. We see tain oikian is in the accusative, and then we care about all of these personal pronouns. Mu, first person, genitive my. So my mother gave, moi is the dative, which is to me. So my mother gave to me, accusative, object of gave. My mother gave to me the house, second person here, you. My mother gave to me your house. Third person personal pronouns, chapter 12. Components of third person personal pronouns. Person, number, case, gender. The person is third person. He, she, or it. The number is singular or plural. He, they. The case is nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. And now, for the first time, with the third person, we get gender. We get masculine, feminine, and neuter genders. As remember, only the third person pronouns have gender. And the gender that we have is aŭtós, is he. You'll see that standard omicron sigma ending for a 212. aŭtē, the eta there, for she, and aŭtā for it. Third person pronouns are in a 2-1-2 declension. And fortunately, we all know the 2-1-2 declension very well because we learned it with adjectives. And so I'm just going to talk to you about what little things might be different about it. The 2-1-2 declension of aŭtós, he, she, it, the third person personal pronoun. The nominative singular in the masculine is, as expected, an omicron sigma ending, aŭtós, he. The feminine, aŭtē with that eta, she. And the neuter, aŭtā, one of the two endings. And in the neuter, the nominative and the accusative are always the same. In the genitive, aŭtū, his. And it's identical to aŭtū in the neuter, it. So, we're beginning to see something that's going to happen. With the genitive and dative, because they're the same in the masculine and neuter, you cannot tell by looking at them whether or not they're masculine or neuter. You need context. The feminine, eta sigma, is her, standard first declension endings. The dative singular, and we expect a iota subscript all the way across, is aŭtō, to him, and we know that the masculine and neuter are always the same, so it's also going to be aŭtō in the neuter, to it. And then the feminine is aŭtē with that iota subscript, to her. Accusative singular, aŭtōn, he, that new ending, and aŭtēn, she. The nominative plural is oi, aŭtoi is they, feminine is the alpha, aŭtai, they, and aŭtā in the neuter. Remember that the nominative and accusative are always the same, and the ending for the neuter is always alpha in the plural, so we have aŭtā, aŭtā. The genitive plural is the same in the masculine and neuter, and that omega nu ending is common to all three. So all three, masculine, feminine, and neuter, are aŭtōn. The dative plural, aŭtōis in the masculine, to them, and of course aŭtōis in the neuter, to them. The feminine stays with its alpha, is aŭtais rather than aŭtōis, to them. The accusative plural, aŭtūs in the second declension masculine, aŭtōst, first declension feminine, and of course aŭtā, and they all mean they. All forms either begin with aŭt and smooth breathing. So, all forms begin with aŭt, alpha, upsilon, tau, plus the endings, and the breathing is smooth. And the neuter nominative accusative has that omicron ending rather than the other possible omicron nu ending. Three uses of aŭtós: personal, identical, and intensive. Personal pronouns, he, she, or it. Now, we've talked about gender before and about how it's used in Greek and how it's used in English, and how nouns are gendered. All nouns are gendered, whether it has anything to do with biology or not. They have a gender. Personal pronouns must refer back to nouns. So especially the third person, he, she, it, is always referring back to a noun. So because of that, it must have the ability to refer back to form and also to what we would call natural gender. Natural gender is a relationship between a word and the biology of the antecedent. That is the sexuality. So, natural gender we would have aŭtós estin ha anthropos. Estin is an equal sign, so we have he is the man. Clearly, the masculine singular nominative form of aŭtós agrees with that form of anthropos, and anthropos is masculine in that sense of being natural. He is the man. Aŭtēstin hagone is the same thing. She is the woman. And the agreement here is between biology and the word she, especially in our translation into English. Now, the rest of personal pronouns are referring to grammatical gender. That is, they're referring to nouns that are gendered, but in themselves are not biologically male, female, or neuter. So we get aŭtēstin hamartia, and what looks like she is a sin. We realize that hamartia is a feminine noun, and if a pronoun is going to refer to it, it must be a pronoun in the same form. So hamartia is feminine singular, so the pronoun must also be feminine singular. Aŭtēstin hamartia, it is a sin, we would probably translate it. The same as aŭtós estin halagos. We have in John said, he is the word. But we know that the reason that aŭtós is masculine singular is because it's referring to a noun, logos, which is masculine singular. So we have, it is the word. Identical adjective. This is a term of Mouse's I'm not real comfortable with, but I must say I don't have a better one. The reason I'm not really comfortable is that the pronoun remains a pronoun. And I understand what Mouse is trying to do. He's trying to say that when a pronoun can be used as an adjective under certain conditions and have a certain meaning. So we'll use this term identical adjective. Just remember with it that we're actually dealing with a pronoun and not with one of the adjectives we've had so far. So the identical adjective functions as an adjective in the attributive position. That is, so far aŭtós, in the forms that we've had, will function as adjectives if they're in the attributive position. And the attributive position, as we remember, is one of two. That is, an article before the adjective, before the noun, ha agathos anthropos, or article noun, article adjective. Ha anthropos, ha agathos. And this adjective always appears with an article. So this is not going to be a very difficult one. It will always be in this position, in the same position as an attributive adjective, which means an article has to come before it. And the translation of it is same. That's how we get identical adjective, that the translation for it is same. So we're thinking of using a pronoun, a third person pronoun, as an adjective, and the meaning of it is same. So here's an example. Aŭtós estin ha aŭtós anthropos. So the first part is what we expect from a rather pronoun, which is he is, aŭtós estin, he is, and ha anthropos, man. We would have he is the man. But you'll see this aŭtós in blue between the article and the noun, which is the attributive position, right? It is one of the two. So by being placed here, it becomes an adjective. And the meaning of it is same. So the meaning of the sentence is, he is the same man. Aŭtós epen ton aŭton logon. I just want to show you that this form can be used in other cases as well as the nominative. So, aŭtós epen, he spoke, and we would have in red ton logon, the word, but between ton and logon, we have this blue aŭton. Same case, number and gender, so it's functioning as an adjective, and the meaning of it would be, he spoke the same word. The next form, there are three forms, and the third form is called the Adjectival Intensive. And it just takes going back to remembering what attributive and predicative forms are for adjectives. The one we had before functioned when the pronoun was in the attributive position, it became an adjective. The adjectival intensive functions when it's in the predicative position. That is, there's no article in front of it. So we can have aŭtós estin, ha anthropos aŭtós, he is the man. And if this were to be attributive, we would have had ha anthropos ha aŭtós, right? Because that is one of the two attributive forms. However, we have anthropos, no article in front of the aŭtós, which means it is, he is the man himself. It's intensive. So, anthropos aŭtós, because he is the man himself. Aŭte estin he gune aŭte, same position, no article before this last pronoun aŭte in red, so the meaning would be, she is the woman herself. This can also be used in first and second pronouns, as well as the third, to emphasize or clarify the gender of the speaker. Remember, only third-person pronouns can take gender. That means I and you don't have gender either in English or Greek. So one way that we go about creating this gender is to use the intensive. So we get su aŭtós, you yourself, and we see su at this point is a masculine. Su aŭtós, you yourself, or we could just probably translate it you, but knowing that it was a man. Su aŭte, however, you yourself again, but aŭte tells us this is a feminine. So su aŭte means you yourself being a woman. Antecedents. Antecedents are the nouns to which pronouns refer. That is, we have two sentences. Jesus came to Galilee. He was alone. He refers to the antecedent, Jesus. Antecedents are the nouns that pronouns directly or indirectly reference, and they can be paragraphs up. A pronoun agrees with its antecedent in number and gender. So, if it agreed with Jesus, it would have to agree with masculine and singular. But it doesn't necessarily agree in case. So if we have the sentence, he saw Jesus, he was alone, the first sentence, Jesus is the object of the sentence. The second sentence, Jesus is the subject. So they don't necessarily agree in case. Case is the result of how they're being used in the sentence. So let's look at the following sentences and ask the question, what are the pronouns? We have ha'anthropos eche hamartion kai aŭte eche aŭton. So obviously we have two major clauses here. And the first one, what we're looking for are the pronouns. And the pronouns are in the second part of it. Aŭté and aŭtón. Those are our pronouns. Now these pronouns have to agree and refer to something. Okay? So aŭté must agree and refer to a feminine singular noun. It doesn't have to be in the nominative, but it has to be feminine singular. So if we look back and ask what are the antecedents, aŭté must refer to hamartion. It's the only feminine singular there is before it. Aŭtón, which is the other pronoun, agrees or refers back to its antecedent, anthropos, because it is masculine and singular, but again, anthropos is in the nominative, aŭtón is in the accusative. We're not referring back to case, we're referring back to number and gender. We're going to look at parsing a third person pronoun. We've already parsed first and second. One of the things about third person, remember, is third person now is going to be adding gender to the parsing. And remember, the base of all third person is alpha, upsilon, tau, out, to which we add our ending. So we're going to be using this form throughout because obviously this is a third person pronoun. So we're going to begin third person. We've already done first and second, so the possibilities are only left for third. A case is same case as a noun, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. Number, singular, and plural. And the gender, this is the part that we're going to have to add in parsing between this and the first and second, is the gender, masculine, feminine, and neuter. The lexical form is your vocabulary word, and the meaning is the meaning of that word. So, the first one that we looked at is a person is going to be third person. That's all we're looking at right now. So, its case, well, this is a nominative or accusative. And you say, why? You say, I think it looks like only nominative. Because it is a neuter singular. And this ending is the same in the nominative and the accusative. So we have it from aŭtós, and an argument could be made that each one of these lexical forms could be the base, aŭtós, aŭté, aŭtá, and I would accept that. Some grammarians do it that way. It is the meaning. Aŭtós, we're looking at a dative plural here. You can see that oi and we're definitely third person, right? And the thing is, this, we know that masculine and neuter have the same endings. And this, when we're parsing it, this is acting like we would parse an adjective, right? So it means, it could either mean he or it, or in this case, they or they. So it's dative for sure, it's plural, but its gender could either be masculine or neuter, from aŭtós to them or to its. And aŭtai, we're looking at, again, third person, that alpha iota is a nominative ending for the plural feminine, aŭtós, they. And aŭtón, again, our good friend, the omega nu, which is also going to cause problems, third person. And we know that its case is genitive and plural because all genitive plurals are omega nu. The gender is the question. Now we're going to think about it acting just like an adjective. In this case, that own ending is common to all of them, and so the gender will be either masculine, feminine, or neuter, from aŭtós, there. Okay, we're drawing to a close and I'm losing my voice, so let's go through the vocabulary. See, I already lost it. On chapter 11. Adelphos, second declension, ha, masculine. Adelphos' brother. Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. On. On doesn't have a lot of meaning. It is an uninflected particle, and you're going to see it whenever ever is added. So whenever you go the difference from when to whenever, you're going to see on. Oner, oner, oner. And you'll see this is a third declension, and the genitive is very different from the nominative, so different that they're going to write out the whole word, and the genitive is andros, andros. And we get androgyny, we get a lot of words from this one. And this is masculine, man, male, husband. Ecclesia, ecclesia, ecclesia. Ecclesia is a first declension, and it is feminine, and it means church. It actually means meeting place or meeting house or meeting tent, and church and church are later additions. Elpis, 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 elpidas, very different. See that sigma overrode that dental, and we get, instead of delta, we get a sigma. So instead of, the original is elpid, and the sigma overrides it, and we get elpis, elpidas. Hey, it is feminine, third declension, hope. And I learned this from elpis being Elvis. I hope that Elvis is still alive. Exo, exo, exo. Exo, if it's an adverb, means without or outside. Exo, with the genitive, if it's a preposition, means outside. Epi plus the accusative, on, to, against. Epi plus the genitive, on, over, when. Hemes, hemes, hemes. This is we, right? Ada with rough breathing. Thelema, 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 thelematas. This is a mot stem, thelemat, third declension, and we know it's neuter because all mot stems are neuter. This means will or desire. Ide, ide, ide. And this means see or behold. It's not as common as idu, 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 which is see or behold as well. We'll learn later that they're the same forms. Kalas, kale, kalan. Kalas, kalas. Kalas is good or beautiful, and this is a 2-1-2 declension adjective. Mater, mater, mater. Now, it sounds like mother, and it is. It is metras, omicron sigma. It's third declension for sure. Metras in the genitive, and it is feminine, mother. Ude, ude, ude. De means but, and u, but not, or and not even. pater, pater, pater. This is the same we saw before with mater. The genitive is the same, patras, and it's masculine. Pistis, pistis, pistis. Genitive, an unusual one. This is pisteos, pisteos. We didn't go through this one. This is the feminine, but just memorize pisteos. Trust, faith, believe. Phos, phos, phos. Genitive, photos. Okay, the stem had a tau overridden by a sigma. Photos, ta, and it is neuter. Light. Charis, charis, charis. And this is the form that we see often. The genitive is caritas, and caritas shows us, this is third declension, feminine, grace, favor, or kindness. Hode, hode, hode. It sounds like hoedown, so there's a hoedown here, hode.